is going on, you jabronis? Welcome to Create and Destroy. I'm your host, Dan Donnarumma. This is episode frickin' 4, and I'm so goddamn excited about today's episode. My guest for you today is Jim Hewitt. Jim is the man behind the band Lost Film. If you've never listened to Lost Film before, it is a band that has a lo-fi, indie pop, guitar pop type of sound, so songs that have a poppy type of melody, catchy melody. But one of the things that I love about Lost Film and something that Jim and I discussed are his lyrics and how his lyrics can be somewhat sad at times and can talk about some deep things. And that's something that typically catches my attention and typically will make me enjoy the music of a band because I'm very big when it comes to lyrics. We also talk about how Jim wound up getting into music, how he learned how to play guitar, how he learned to create the music that would become the style that Lost Film is, and how he learned how to create that sound, which was cool and I thought was very interesting. The one thing that I thought was funny, he and I, so we both had a similar type of background or interest, I would say, when we were teenagers. So we both played baseball and then we transitioned into similar types of hobbies after that. And one of the things we talked about was how goddamn hard it is to hit a freaking curveball. You know, when a pitcher throws a really hard fastball at you and then the next pitch is this super slow, soft curveball and it's looking like it's going to hit you, and then all of a sudden breaks and hits the corner of the plate. God damn, that is a really hard pitch to hit. So I thought that was kind of fun getting to talk to him about baseball because I love baseball. I had a lot of fun doing this interview. You know, Jim was kind enough to let Danielle and I into his home. We got to meet his family, sit down with him, do this interview. It wound up being a very fun weekend. So on Friday after work, Danielle and I packed up our shit. We drove from Rochester to Central New York, spent the night at her parents' house. We left our Greyhound Butters with them, woke up super early Saturday morning, drove to Western Mass, where Jim lives. We sat down with him, did our interview. From there, we drove to Boston. I did another interview, and then I got to meet up with my good buddy, TYM, and got to hang around Boston, explore the city. And I really love Boston. It's such an awesome city. Even if Boston's sports teams are trash as fuck, Yankees and Jets, baby. But I love that city. It's super chill. It's a really good time anytime I get to spend some time there. But I didn't even wind up spending 24 hours. I woke up super early on Sunday. Danielle and I went back to Central New York, picked up our little goofball Butters, and then drove back to Rochester so that Danielle could be at work Monday morning. I took Monday off smartly. But I really enjoyed my weekend, and, you know, even if nothing comes about from this podcast, it makes me happy knowing that I'm already getting out and traveling a little bit and meeting people that I otherwise would never meet. How the hell would I meet Jim Hewitt or get to sit down and have a conversation with him if it wasn't for this podcast? So it's cool that I get to travel, I get to meet some people, I get to have cool conversations with folks, and I get to enjoy the beautiful weather, right? That's what summer's all about, enjoying the weather, hanging out with people, having a good time. So really happy about that. Jim was kind enough to hook me up with some Lost Film merch. So if you would like to receive some cool Lost Film stuff, hit me up on Instagram at Create and Destroy Podcast. Send me a DM and I will pick someone to send. I've got some tapes and a 7-inch that I could give out. So if you want some free Lost Film music, hit me up on Instagram and I will give you the hookup. All right, folks. Like I said, this was a really fun conversation. I really enjoyed sitting down with Jim. Super nice guy. This was a lot of fun. Hope you enjoy. All right, Jim, how's it going? Thanks so much for sitting down with me.
Oh, good. Thanks for coming. Thanks for having me. This is great.
Yeah, I'm really excited about today. So a lot of different things that I wanted to talk to you about. But let's kind of start a little bit from the beginning. How old were you when you started playing instruments and making music?
Sure. Yeah, I was a little bit late for most of my friends. I was like 15, maybe 16, I think. Yeah, so basically I was playing sports, like most kids for years growing up. And then come high school, it got a little too intense for me, practice every day. And I was just like, I don't want to do this anymore. I need something else to do. And I started skateboarding a lot. And everyone who skateboards also plays guitar. It's kind of like a rule, I think. So my friends I saw that they were in bands, and I was like, oh, I want to do this too. I got to catch up. So I think I was about 16. I picked up an acoustic, learned Smoke on the Water, and the rest is history.
What sports did you play?
I was basketball and baseball. But those are my two. So I'm like a skinny guy. I tried football, but I couldn't handle it. It was too much. They wanted me to go in the weight room and stuff. I'm like, no. So
that's exactly. So when I was younger, I played baseball, and then around like 15, 16 years old, it was the same thing. Started skateboarding,
right, yeah.
And then I started picking up a guitar. So it was the same thing. And then I stopped playing baseball, stopped doing any sports.
It's too much.
Yeah.
It was fun when everybody was like bad. And then when kids get really good, when they're like 16, they're throwing curveballs. And I can't.
So hard, right? Yeah, so tough. And how about when you first started playing in bands? How old were you at that point?
It probably took a while because like everybody else had been playing since they were probably 12, and I was just like the sucky kid who was like still playing with one finger, and everyone was like playing shows and stuff. So I didn't really play in a real band, I think, until college, probably. Right. Probably sophomore year of college, I started like playing a little bit more seriously, and finally I knew how to play guitar and had a lot of free time. Probably right around then.
And so the first song that you learned how to play was Smoke on the Water?
Yeah, I think that's probably about 99% of people.
And how did you learn how to play and teach yourself to get better?
It was probably my friend Justin, who plays with us now in Lost Film. He plays bass, and he was kind of the guy who got me started in high school. He showed me a couple songs, and then we kind of had this joke band where we would just kind of, make fun of people at school, whatever, at his house, and then record it, and we thought it was the best thing ever. So he would show me a couple songs, and I would try to learn like Nirvana, whatever, White Stripes, just the easy one-noters or whatever. And so after that, I would just go online and look at tabs and try to figure that stuff out. But I never really liked playing other people's songs. I thought I really got more of a kick out of making something up. And also, it was easier because, when I'm looking up like professional bands songs, it's pretty complicated. So
that's funny that you say that. A lot of people that I talk to and get advice about playing guitar, I'll ask them, how have you gotten to the point that you're at with playing? And they tell me, I just learned how to play guitar, other songs.
Right.
I'm super ADD.
Yeah.
That sometimes I will try to learn a song, and then maybe after one sitting, I'm just like, this is boring. I'd rather try to write my own stuff.
Right. I guess I should go back a little bit. So I did take, I think, 2 or 3 lessons when I first was like, all right, I want to try this out. So my grandmother remarried when I was in high school to a guy who owned a guitar shop. And that also played kind of a big role. So in their house, they had all these like, extra guitars in the basement. And one, I think it was like my 15th or 16th birthday, they were like, go pick one out. That's your birthday present. And from there, I brought it to my friends. I was like, hey, look, I'm one of you guys now. Can I play? And that was a big part too. And I took a couple lessons. I didn't really like the guy. He was kind of weird. And I don't know, it kind of felt like sports again. It was like someone telling you how to practice your thing. I didn't like that, so I just taught myself.
Do you remember what kind of guitar it was that you picked out?
It was a piece of junk because I didn't know. If I knew better, I would have been, I would have picked a Gibson or something. It was called a Galveston. I don't know. It's just like a no name, I think.
Do you still have it?
I do. It's in the basement. I can't throw it away. It's just like, it's pretty much destroyed. It has like skateboard stickers on it and stuff. But,
that's hilarious.
Yeah.
And when you first started to make music, what was inspiring you to make the stuff that you were making at that time?
Let me try to think. When I actually started I was playing a lot of acoustic guitar, and this was high school. So unfortunately, it was a lot of emo-y. It's a lot of Dashboard Confessional. I was trying to kind of sound like that, I think. Just that's what everyone was into, and you could play that at a party, and people would, enjoy it, or I guess. And then in college, I took this like audio engineering class where you would learn how to record, and I started playing a little bit more with like computers and synthesizers. I thought that was really fun. It was just how to make music with MIDI and stuff, and that got me into actually writing and recording, and recording my own songs and editing and stuff, and that really made it a little bit more serious, more fun, rather than just like every now and then playing a Dashboard song in my bedroom. It's like, oh, I can actually record it. I'm not sure if that's what the class had in mind for, was supposed to do. I think it was more like to record. I went to school for communications, like for radio, probably to do stuff like this podcast. But I took advantage of it and just used the recording equipment and made songs when, the labs were closed and stuff. So,
what other stuff were you listening to at that point in time?
It's funny because the bands that I listened to then kind of can't get rid of them. So it was like Death Cab was a big one. I think that's where I got my big motivation for singing, like the way I sing. Like I still hear that sometimes. Pedro the Lion. Let's see. It was all like stuff from the Pacific Northwest, early 2000s. Built to Spill, Modest Mouse, a lot of guitars. So yeah, I guess it was a bunch of stuff like that. And there was a lot of pop punk, Saves the Day, stuff like that too. But I can't say that the pop punk stuff ever really made its way into influencing my music that much. At least the stuff that I have recorded.
So primarily the bands, like the emo sounding bands from the early 2000s.
Right, yeah. And then later on, once I got into college, I kind of broadened what I listened to a little bit. I got in a little bit, different sort of stuff. More like hip hop and folk and all that. I worked at the radio station, so we just got free music all the time. So, yeah.
And where would you say that your interest or love for music stems from?
I can't really say. I'm not really sure on that one. I think it's more just like I replaced skateboarding. I replaced sports with skateboarding. I replaced music. I replaced skateboarding with music. So now it's just I need something to do with my hands, and it's constantly rewarding and stuff. And it's I always have something to do in my downtime and stuff.
When you were starting to put together music, was it hard for you to write stuff?
Yeah, it still is. It takes a long time, but I don't really put a lot of pressure. I don't have like a label breathing down my neck to be like, when's the next record? So it's really just I record in my free time, maybe like 30 minutes a day. I have a kind of a studio set up in the basement where I'll just record on my phone like a couple ideas, and I'll do that for like months and months and months, and finally I'll go back and look at it and kind of I can piece them together. So usually it takes a really long time, and then lyrically I kind of save that for last, and it usually comes out as I don't know how to put it. Just comes out like subconsciously or something. Pieces of words that kind of fit syllables where they should go and stuff. So, yeah, it does take a long time. Some people just say, yeah, it just comes right away. Not for me.
I found that one of the hardest parts of writing songs for me is vocal patterns and lyrics, because a lot of times what winds up happening is I'm listening to a certain album or a certain band, and I almost see whatever their vocalist is doing start to like creep into what I'm doing, and I'm just like, I don't know if I want to go that way, and it just kind of happens.
Yeah, it's hard to you do get stuck in patterns, like almost like formulas or something. That's like, oh, well, there should be a intro, verse, chorus, whatever, bridge, all in that order. So you can definitely get stuck in that. So it's important. I notice that when you play live, opposed to recordings, when I'm playing with other people, and we're playing like a set, if all the songs are starting to sound the same all at once, I'm like, oh, well, maybe you should kind of mix it up. Just do no choruses, all just different parts or something, at least for a couple of songs.
And now to jump into what you're currently doing with Lost Film. Mm-hmm. I love the name Lost Film because I'm a photographer. Sure. How did you come up with that name?
That came from, I think one of my friends just posted some link years ago about lost films and how, like, in the 1920s, where these, movies, the film was actually really like delicate, and they would shoot a movie and store it in a warehouse, and they would just catch on fire. And obviously there's no digital copies or anything, so they would just be gone. People would watch those movies. I guess it's like Snapchat or something. It's like you watch it and then it's gone. I just thought that was really cool because there was even like really famous movie stars from those movies that, once those movies burned up and were gone or lost or whatever, they weren't famous anymore in like a year or two, which would never happen now. If you had a really big movie or something, that's it, you're famous pretty much forever. It's like people didn't think that movies and films were going to catch on. They're like, people aren't going to want these things. It's just a fad. So they didn't take good care of them. I just think that was really cool. Like spontaneous, not like now everything is permanent, So yeah, I guess it's basically I just thought that was really cool. I just needed a new band name.
So the fact that the story behind that makes me enjoy the name Lost Film even more. That's so cool.
Yeah, a lot of people just put two words together, like verb nouns or whatever as band names. And I've had weird band names in the past. I just wanted like a normal sounding name, and that one always stuck out to me.
And how would you describe the sound of Lost Film?
I'm not sure if I'm going to really be able to do that. I usually say it's just guitar music, and that usually just shuts people up. I guess it's kind of poppy guitar music. I'm not really afraid of pop music. I love pop. I love all sorts of music, but I really appreciate like the art of just a super cheesy pop song, a Taylor Swift song or whatever. There's millions and millions and millions of dollars going into that song. It may be cheese, but it's like it's created very meticulously. A lot of people are scared that a song is too poppy or something, but catchy songs are what people like,
It's funny you say that. When I was younger, I was super into hardcore and punk, and if someone said they liked pop music, I'd scoff at them. Sure, like, oh, that's whack. And now as I've gotten older, I could totally get down with pop. Yeah. Like a lot of people, I enjoy Katy Perry.
Sure, me too. One of my favorites.
Yeah, and people kind of are surprised by that. But yeah, I agree. There's something about pop, right?
Sure.
The structure of a song that could be very catchy and can just be.
And the production is just like, it's really cool to hear like $1 million in your headphones just coming in.
Yeah,
like, that synthesizer costs so much money, that production.
And so you write and record all of the music for Lost Film yourself, right?
Right. I don't play drums that well, so my friend Ben usually he does the drum parts. But sometimes I use drum machines. But I've been going back and forth between drums, live drums, and drum machines. But everything else, yeah, I write and record. Usually at home nowadays.
You have Ben coming in to help out with drums at times. Do you give any input as far as where you would like a song to go with the drums, or is it just you let him do his own thing?
Yeah, it's kind of like a collaborative thing for the most part. We have pretty similar tastes and styles, so he knows what I like. I know what he likes to do, and I usually tell him, I give him a demo that will be like with drum machines, and then he'll listen to that and get kind of inspired by that and kind of go with that.
And you perform the music live with a band.
Yep, Ben and my friend Justin, and we kind of mess around with other guitarists and other keyboardists every now and then, but those three guys us three have been the live band. I tried doing solo shows with like a drum machine and trying loops and stuff, and it's just, I don't really like to watch just one person play. And I don't really like to perform just by myself. It's a lot more fun to be on stage with other people and interact with them.
Has it been difficult for you to find individuals to perform live with, or has this been pretty much the lineup that you've got for live shows?
Yeah, these guys have been playing with me for, Justin, like I was talking about before, he taught me how to play guitar. I can't really play music without him, I guess. It's really fun to have him there. And Ben is, I've been playing with him, probably 5 or 6 years too. And just once you get a good mix, it's hard to kind of walk away from that. Even, they live far away now. Ben lives in New Hampshire and Justin lives south of Boston, so we're about 2 hours apart from each other, kind of like in a triangle of 2 hours apart. But still, I could find other people around here. It's just, once you have a good connection, it's hard to kind of just try to find something else.
And so does Justin ever give feedback, or do you ever share thoughts on songs, or what you may a route you might want to take with some of the music that you're creating?
I would say for the live show, yeah. For the live show, I just let them kind of come up with the parts for most part. I'll send them the songs, and they'll again like listen to it and get inspired by it, and put their own spin on it. But for the most part, recording, I just do everything, and then I bring the songs to them for when we want to tour or whatever, and they'll kind of put their spin on it.
And what made you decide that was the route you wanted to take, with basically writing the music and recording it yourself and then performing it live with a band?
Sure, I think probably control freak, I think is the word. I was working with friends and recording with other bands collaboratively, and it was fun too. I miss doing that. I don't do that a whole lot anymore. And then it just got to a point where I really like doing things my way. I don't know what it is. Maybe I'm an only child, maybe that could have been it. I just really like being able to do everything how I want it. And I just started doing that like when I was in Boston. Right after college, I recorded a couple demos, and just for fun, after work, and then I put them online, and then right away there was like a connection with people, which was the first. I never really had that with bands. We would play shows, have demos or whatever. No one would really find it or anything, and once it worked, I was like, oh, okay, I think this is how I should do it. This feels right. I can do it in my free time. There's no rush. There's no pressure. There's no egos getting involved and stuff. So, yeah, if it's not broken, don't fix it.
And since you are writing all this stuff yourself and recording it, and then you have a band to accompany that when you perform live, is there a difference between what's recorded and the live rendition of the song? Do you try to have a strict rendition of the song live as it is recorded?
Yeah, it's not really that strict. I think like any band, usually something changes from the live setting. Usually it's a little bit faster, I think. But yeah, no matter what, it's always a little bit different. We do stick to this, I don't change the words or, many guitar parts or anything, but it's also a lot more interesting for us if we're going to play a few shows in a row to not play it the same exact way every time. And if people catch us, if people come see us a couple different times, I don't think they would want to see it the same way every single time. It makes it a little bit more special than, why don't you just listen to the record if you want to hear the record, but it makes it a little bit more cool to switch it up live.
Yeah, I've always wondered that when I see bands going on these really long tours. Like by the end of the tour, I feel like you probably have to be like, oh, I'm so sick of these songs, right? If you're not switching it up at least a little bit.
You gotta change it just a little bit, And it's cool to try to do. We don't do it a ton, but to improvise, just leave a little bit of room to just leave a little special spot in there to see if something's going to happen, and that way people at the shows can. I think that's really cool to watch two people perform their art, as it happens live, not just kind of like a structured, here we practice it this way and this is what it sounds like, which is just cool too, but a little different.
Yeah, there have only been, I want to say, a handful of times that I've experienced live performances where they're just kind of doing their own thing, and it's always been such an awesome experience. Yeah. And it's something that I wish I got to experience more. A lot of times it's just a strict rendition of the songs.
Which is cool too. If you really like the song, some people kind of just want to hear it that way live, which is fine.
And so you previously released music as Orca Orca,
right,
but then became Lost Film when you left Boston, right?
Right.
And could you talk a little bit about that experience and how you felt at that time, changing your band name and moving?
Yeah, it was pretty much just a name change. It was the same formula, the same, same everything. People think it's like a different band. It's really just a change in name. We still play some of those songs that are from that name. But so I was in Boston for like 5 years, and right after college I moved there, and I wanted to start a band and I wanted to play. I saw people doing that. I just wanted to play, in Alston specifically. I moved there to play at Grace Scott. I went to a show there once, and I was like, I want to live here. I want to be in bands. I want to play here. And we did that for a while, and then it was pretty much the same people playing in the live band as we have now. And then when I moved, I wanted it to kind of just be a different. It's not like rebranding. That's a bad way to put it, but I thought there would be different live members. I was going to do new record. I had a new record I wanted to work on, so kind of just like a continuation, but a little bit different. I knew it was going to be a lot more solo based, and I knew it would be different people playing in the band. So to use the same Orca Orca name, if there was different people in a live band, even though it's like my solo project, it still would have just felt wrong to do. So I had a name that I wanted to use, so I just used that for the new stuff. And
so I read that when you moved from Boston to here, that you mentioned feeling more comfortable living in the suburbs. And when I was reading that, it got me thinking about just like Massachusetts in general, right? Because I feel like Boston, Massachusetts, a lot of really great acts come from this area. How would you say living in Massachusetts has affected who you've become as a musician and as an artist?
Sure, yeah. Well, in Boston, I noticed that I was playing a lot more geared towards, fitting in with bands in the city, and city bands are a lot, faster and rock and roll-y. So I was trying to fit in like with the Boston bands. And then when I moved away from Boston, I noticed right away, I use a lot of drum machines, so I noticed that my songs were slower by like 30 or 40 BPM. It's like, oh, I think this has something to do where I moved. And I don't know if you've spent a ton of time in Western Mass, where we are now. It's a lot more slower paced than Boston. It's spread out. There's farms. There's, people aren't as in a rush as they are. So I guess in terms of Massachusetts specifically, other than just having the close, influences of other local bands, there's a pretty deep history in Western Mass too, with, all the fuzzy 90s bands, Pixies and Dinosaur Jr. and stuff. So I guess even if I don't realize it, I'm getting influenced by those guys too.
Mm-hmm. And to go back to like writing music and recording, how did you learn how to put everything together, right? All the different components that come along with creating the music that you wanted to create and structuring it in a way that you were happy with.
Sure. So what I started doing specifically, I think when Lost Film started, I got this delay pedal that could do looping as well, and I didn't really realize that. So in my free time, when I would just pick up a guitar, I start making loops. I just do one part and then, layer it with a bunch of different parts. And that's how I would, by the end of it, a half hour later, I would have basically a much fuller sounding song. The main idea, the main part for a song, and then I would go back and record it, but not by looping it, piece by piece, each track. And then I would just mute each one every now and then and cut them up and kind of see where parts should have 3 guitar parts and where it should just be 1 or none, So a lot of my songs are written just by playing with a loop pedal for like a couple hours, and at the end of it saying, okay, that's it. Now it sounds good with, 9 guitars on it or something. And then when I record it, it would just be usually 2 or 3 guitars at a time.
What drew me to Lost Film in your music is that your songs have this jangly guitar pop melody, but then mixed in with lyrics that I feel like at times can be a little morose, a little bit depressing.
Sure.
What made you want to make music that sounded like that?
Let's see. I guess it started, the morose part, music lyrically usually started as catharsis, just like a release. When I was younger, that's what it always was, maybe harping back to the Dashboard days. So I think I've always seen it as sort of a release, so that it is like kind of a stress and outlet, So there is a little bit of darkness to it from just, those years and stuff. And the guitar, I'm not sure. I started getting more into guitar bands like from the 80s, from the UK, like when I was in college and right after college, like the Sour Records bands. I just really loved, a lot of those projects were 1 or 2 people too. A couple of them were like married people, and just in their free time, it would just be like the Field Mice. I got into those guys right after college, and I really liked just the sound. It was simple, but it was poppy, and it was, it was kind of dark, but it wouldn't be on the radio. It was like a pop song, but it could be, if they just sang about other stuff.
And one of the themes that I've picked up in your lyrics that I've connected with is that there seems to be this theme of wanting to be alone or wanting to just hang in your house.
Sure.
And I'm a very big introvert, and I love doing that myself.
Sure.
Is that correct? Is that a good? Am I right in that assumption?
Yeah, I would say so. And I don't know if I've ever deliberately thought about that, but yeah, I like my alone time. I guess I'm a pretty big introvert myself. Like we were talking about earlier, I work from home as my day job, so I spend a lot of alone time. But I do need to get out of the house, or I go a little crazy. So I spend a lot of time outside, ride my bike or something. Usually by myself too, though. Yeah, I mean, it is a solo project. So I get in my own head a lot, and just I haven't collaborated much. So it does gear towards just like myself. But I am kind of stepping away from that, and I don't really have a need to release, anymore like I used to. So now I'm kind of looking outward for topics to kind of write stories about, or different sort of, it's a different sort of way to write, which if I can't just keep writing the same song about how I'm sad in the winter or something,
That's funny that you mentioned that, because I felt like, so your first LP, Imago, I felt was very much songs that were about things that you were dealing with.
Sure.
And I felt like with your newer LP that came out last year, Broken Spectre, that there were some topics that you were talking about that I felt were a little bit, like you were saying, more outward, more focused on things that were happening externally.
Sure.
Is that correct?
Yeah, I just didn't really, like I was saying, I didn't really have a whole lot to talk about myself. I didn't really have any anxiety about, my personal life or anything, doing okay now, I guess. I get a little bit older, and I appreciate, I take a step back and appreciate other things about life other than what's going on with mine. I spend a lot more time outside, and that's my 2-year-old son. He's crying for me. So yes, it's not so much based on what I'm going through or anything. I'll write about stuff that, in the news or whatever, I guess, that I think is messed up or something like that.
Yeah. In Broken Spectre, you talk about nationalism, which
Sure.
I thought was kind of cool. What are your views on nationalism?
So right when I was writing, we have this mountain. I don't know if you actually came down this mountain.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah, it's kind of scary, but you got to hit the brakes a lot. But right when our president got elected, our most recent one, I don't really want to say his name, there was a lot of like graffiti on top of the mountain about anti-Semitic stuff, and it's just like, the stuff that sprouted right when that guy got elected, it was just getting a little scary, and it's so backwards and so terrible. We live in a town that's pretty mixed between, liberal, conservative, but 2 houses down, I can see a Confederate flag flying. So I guess the nationalism stuff was just really bugging me. So I think that might be on the record a little bit. Again, just not really looking at myself too much, looking at other people and kind of observing what their life is like,
Yeah, I appreciated that you talked about that, because I feel like for some individuals, right, the idea of nationalism or having pride in your country, and not to say that there's anything wrong with that, but I think when it gets to a point that it's excessive, it could be very toxic.
Sure.
And yeah, our current president really, I feel like, has brought out and continues to bring out the worst in that in our country.
Yeah, I really encourage those people who are, keeping it to themselves to not really do that. And there's a lot of stuff that kind of encourages that now too, with the internet and stuff.
You also talk about addiction in the song Big Dig.
Mm-hmm.
What prompted you to address addiction in that song?
Well, I guess nowadays, a lot of people suffer with addiction. This part of the country really is into opioids nowadays too. I guess the entire country. So I know a lot of people that just went through addiction, family, friends, and then just seeing other, strangers too. And it's just, I've never really explained that song, I guess, with the Big Dig. That was a big Massachusetts construction project in the 90s. So it's kind of harping back to, the Big Dig just being the Massachusetts, they're trying to fix it, but there was nothing really that wrong with, I guess there was, but not that crazy where you needed to spend billions of dollars. And so I guess it's kind of like what the opioids were used for. It's like, okay, you had some pain, but I don't know if you need an opioid to, fix that. So yeah, again, going back to just looking around at other people's lives and what they're going through and just shedding some light on that rather than, what I'm going through.
And I remember when I first listened to Broken Spectre and listening to that song, I really liked that song. I didn't initially realize that it was about addiction, and it wasn't until after the fact that I had read something stating that that song was about addiction, and then went back and went through the lyrics and just kind of like, whoa, this is a pretty...
I mean, everybody has something that, everybody has their vice. It's just, I guess that's kind of what I'm talking about in that song. Everybody has, whether it's you eat a lot of candy or something, I think I talk about a sweet tooth, or if you like, alcohol or drugs or something, or, potato chips or whatever. Everybody's got, and it's all about managing that, don't go too crazy.
So one of my favorite songs off of Broken Spectre is I Forget. So I listened to that album a lot at the end of last year and the beginning of this year, where the weather in Rochester, New York is just gloomy as hell. And so that song really resonated with me.
Sure.
Could you talk about what that song is about? Because I totally got the vibe that it is about seasonal affect disorder.
Yeah, it is, I guess. Especially around, I guess Rochester too, Boston, the weather, the winters just goes on forever. I think this past one was specifically pretty brutal. I think it went until about April. And it is funny how much it affects people. I forget, that's like a Stone Temple Pilots song or something, but, the second the sun comes out in the spring, people are like in such a better mood again, and they're like finally happy. But in the winter, when it's every day, dark at 4, people are really bummed out. It's just not enough light in their lives, metaphorically and literally. So it wasn't so much me. I think I was just seeing other people really bummed out and really complaining online and stuff, just like, oh man, another day of this. And it's like, it's just the weather, man. You should be used to it now. It's what happens. It's cold and dark in the winter, and then in the summer, So it is about that, and not so much myself, but other people in Boston, I think, that's basically what that one's about.
Yeah, this winter felt like it just dragged forever. Like I remember seeing the meme where it's like it's January 45th, where it's just like it just kept dragging along.
Right.
And I am definitely someone that I totally get like seasonal affect disorder.
Sure.
And to the point where like I've talked to my wife about moving out to like the West Coast, because sometimes, man, the winter, especially in upstate New York, it really bears down on me.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are doing that. I think everyone's leaving. Usually you would wait until you're ready to retire to go somewhat place warm, but people, they have the means and the ability to a lot of people are traveling more. They're not really staying close to home, myself included. But yeah, I mean, that's what it is. I see it as you need to kind of earn your seasons. I didn't come up with that, but the summer isn't as good. It wouldn't be as good if the winter wasn't so bad. You have to have both, in my opinion. That's what it makes you appreciate the summer so much, and it makes you appreciate the fall, because it only happens those couple of months. And if it was the same every single day, I think it'd be kind of dull. It'd probably be pretty cool, actually. But
well, it's funny that you say that. Last summer, my wife Danielle and I, we went to California, and we were hiking in Yosemite National Park, and we came across a spot, and we took a break, and we're just kind of like soaking up everything. And we wound up striking up a conversation with some dude who had been living in San Fran and was leaving there, and he was kind of just like bumming it and traveling. And we started asking him questions about San Fran, and one of the things that he said to us was, I initially loved the weather, but now I miss winters, because he wasn't originally from San Francisco, and he thought that he was going to totally love not having winter, which is kind of funny that you mentioned that.
Even if it's not, even if you don't like it that much, you still miss it.
To quickly go back to I Forget, So like I said, I listened to that. I really, really like that song. And
Thanks.
the one lyric in that song that totally got me was "Anywhere Else But Here." I would listen to it and be like, anywhere else but Rochester, New York right now. This weather sucks.
Yeah, everyone feels that way. If you're in the Northeast, it's great everywhere else.
You recently made a post on Instagram talking about how much you enjoyed the Temporary EP, while also mentioning that you felt like your first LP, Imago, didn't really land where you had wanted it to.
Sure.
What about Imago makes you feel that way?
Sure. Well, that was Imago was my first full record, and also my first time in a studio. Usually I record at home, so that was I like doing different things every time I record, or the records will all sound the same, and it's not really that fun for me or anyone listening to them. So I went into a studio, and it's my first time, so it was a little bit, even though the people were great that I worked with and were friends and everything, it was just a little bit out of my comfort zone. So also I was just a little naive. So those were recorded, those songs, plus it costs money to be in a studio. So you're kind of on a clock, you're on a budget. It's not really the best environment to create art, in my opinion. I guess it works for some people, but especially for a solo project, I was in there, I had something in mind for the demos, and then once the sessions were done, I went back and I just didn't really, it felt a little too forced, or it didn't really capture the same thing that I recorded on the demos of that album. I do like some of the songs, so it's just a few different things so after I finished recording that, not too long after that, I started recording again at home, and that's what the next EP, Temporary, that was recorded in a over a couple months in the summer. I just, in my free time, I had a recording set up in our apartment at the time, and just, you can do it in bits and pieces, not like, okay, you have 8 hours today, it's going to cost you a couple $100, make sure you do the right stuff, make sure the magic happens. So recording at home, I've come to realize, is much better for me, especially as a solo project. And you just, again, I guess it goes back to being alone. I feel like there's no outside pressure, no one's watching you to make sure you're doing something a certain way. I think more real, sparks start to fly when there's nobody's watching you, and you're a little bit more free to try new things, maybe that you wouldn't if you were in a studio. You wouldn't take as many chances because you'd be like, oh, that might sound weird, I'm not going to try that. But there are definitely advantages, obviously, in a studio too. You have access to loads more equipment and opinions and professional advice and stuff. But for me, definitely doing it at home is working out.
Well, if it's any consolation, I actually really enjoy that LP.
Oh, cool.
I like it a lot. I love the song Our Town. I listen to that song all the time. We're actually listening to your music on the way here, and when Our Town came on, I totally bumped up the music. Like, we got to rock out to this song.
Cool. Yeah, so that was the first Lost Film song I ever wrote.
Really?
Yeah. That was because we moved to Western Mass, slowed it down a little bit, and it was just like, all right, this is where we're going to be for a while. My wife and I moved out here, so this is like, let's get used to this speed of life,
So is that song basically about your move from Boston to here, and kind of you experiencing this area of Massachusetts?
Yeah, when we moved out here, we were a little naive. We didn't have any jobs or anything lined up, so that's what also started this project. I had a lot more free time, so we moved out here, didn't have anything to do, didn't really know anybody. I just knew I wanted to live in this part of the state. I couldn't do a city anymore, so I started writing a lot more, and that's where the album came from, and that first demo. Basically the whole project, Lost Film, started from that move.
And prior to releasing Imago, you had released basically just a bunch of singles and EPs. So what compelled you to want to put out an LP?
Yeah, it's just something I always wanted to do, you know. I never did a full record because it takes a lot more time. I was always so antsy to just put stuff out. I would get 3 songs or 4 songs under my belt, and I would, you know, just, I want to show people these, and just dump them out. And then after doing that a few times, you know, again, it goes back to, I don't want to keep doing the same thing. It's just like, okay, let's see if we can do a record. So, and it's just really fulfilling to, you know, track a whole record and see the progression of the songs and track listing and the theme. You don't realize it when you're writing it, but to see all the songs kind of start to have similar themes. It was a lot of fun to do a record, and that's what made me I want to do like full length records a lot more than EPs. I think they're a little bit more interesting. On EPs, you can go like, I like to do weirder, different things on EPs and stick to like a classic, timeless record when you do a full length.
Does the order of songs matter as much on an EP as it does on an LP for you, or no? I guess, I mean, even with LPs, right, does it matter the order of the songs?
Yeah, definitely. For me at least. I don't really know how to describe it, but I have in mind a lot more, actual vinyl records. I have those in mind. I want people to put it on and listen to the whole thing. You know, I don't really like the whole, you know, just putting it on shuffle or whatever, put Spotify. I don't really use that stuff or anything. So I want people to, you know, be interested right away and stay interested, and not put all the fast ones right at one point and all the slow ones. You know, I think there should be sort of like, for a movie or something, there should be a climax in the middle, you know, and an ending that, you know, feels different than the beginning, you know, almost, you know, any sort of art.
And now, do you have difficulty doing that, structuring the LP in a way that you feel hits all of that, where it kind of starts off, you got a midway point that's a little bit of a climax for you, and then ending almost, like you said, like a film?
Yeah, I don't really think I have it in mind when I'm writing the songs. I just, for months and months and months, maybe even years, I just have ideas. I'm writing, just storing them on my phone, and then when I go to demo the songs, I kind of start to get a feel. Okay, this one's the catchy one. This is probably, you know, on top half, on side A, and then a couple of weirder ones will be, you know, later in the record. But I don't think I have them in mind when I'm writing the songs.
And I read that when you had moved from Boston to East Hampton, it was during the summer, and that you spent a lot of that time just kind of hanging with your wife, going on bike rides, just kind of enjoying that time and writing the music for which would become Imago. How would you say that routine shaped what those songs would become?
Yeah, I guess I don't know if I changed my method or anything. It's just I had more free time, so just had a lot more free time. I didn't really have anything else to do rather than ride my bike. We didn't want to spend any money because we didn't have much left after the move. So what was free was just riding bikes and playing guitar. Just going for walks and stuff. So we would walk around town, and then at night, or usually I write either at night or early in the morning. For some reason, those are the times when I think it has something to do with coffee or alcohol. You know, those two things are kind of inspiration. I don't think it affected the way I wrote. It's just I had more free time to really sit and just, nowadays I kind of just, it's a lot of 30-minute pieces of writing, and I'll store it on my phone, and I'll do that again for weeks and weeks, and then I'll start to see songs come together and put them together.
So I was going to ask, how does that differ from Broken Spectre? So you had mentioned kind of just recording stuff on your phone. Is that how Broken Spectre wound up coming to be?
Yeah, it was just, I think a couple of the songs were pretty quick because they were shorter. But there, like the song Big Dig took a long time to write. I just couldn't figure it out. I couldn't let it go. A lot of the times I'll start writing something and I know I don't really like it. It's like, this is cheesy. This sounds like it should be like a commercial or something, but I need to finish it, or it really bugs me. So I'll just finish it and put it away, and I won't use it or anything. But for that song Big Dig, like I was trying to figure it out. I knew I liked it, but I couldn't. And I usually don't have trouble like that. I just realized I needed to put a capo on the guitar. I couldn't figure out that that's what the reason was. I was like, oh, okay. It took me like 8 months to realize I needed a capo on the second fret. And then I could sing to it, which once I have like inspiration to sing something about, then the song really comes together a lot faster with both music and lyrics.
And when listening to Imago and Broken Spectre, to me, I feel like Broken Spectre has more of kind of a depressing feel to me. Really? And I'm wondering if it is because of some of the topics that we discussed earlier, right? Sure. Addiction, nationalism.
Yeah.
Is that something that you intended when you were writing that, or do you feel like maybe that just happened? Is it something that maybe I'm just...
No, I think you're right on that one. Again, it was just, I wrote it at a really crazy time. I wrote it right during the 2016 election. And it was just right around then is when I kind of shut the news off for a little bit. I just couldn't really take it anymore. So I was just really looking at, I guess it wasn't catharsis about stuff that I'm going through. It was just like basically complaining and pointing out this problems with other people in our lives. And it's just, maybe people don't realize it or something. I just wanted to shed light on it or something. I think it was a little bit just for myself. Everything that I create is, it's for me. It's not really for anybody. I don't really care if other people don't like it. It's my thing. I'm not really making a living off it or anything. I'm just writing songs that I like, and I listen to it all the time. Not gonna lie.
That's really cool, because I sometimes wonder about that with musicians. Because when I find albums or bands that I really like, I like zone in and I'll listen to their album almost incessantly. Sure. And I sometimes wonder, do artists do something similar with their own music?
I go through spurts where, like, because for me it's also like I don't really take a lot of pictures, or I don't really keep a journal, or I'm not really active online or anything. So the songs are, it's almost like a diary or something. It's almost like a memory. I remember where I was when I was writing that, and where I recorded it, and what those songs are about. So it's almost like looking at an old picture for me. And it's also, it's music that I kind of like. It's, I don't know, maybe that's a weird egotistical thing. I don't do it every day or anything. It's, every now and then I remember it and I want to listen to it, because I forget. I'm like, oh yeah, totally. Like the other day, I forgot I recorded. I didn't forget, but I hadn't listened to this EP for our Orca bands that we made in 2013. Just never really listened to. I didn't really like it because, again, it was in a studio. Just a lot of outside stuff going on that I didn't really like. And I listened to it again for the first time in years, and I was like, this is kind of cool. I forgot about these songs. I ended up I released them finally.
Yeah, I think that's really cool, because again, right, like you said, I feel like it should be for you above anyone else, right? So that's really cool.
Once it starts being for other people, I think is when it's goes downhill from there. It really suffers.
Do you typically have a favorite song off of a release?
Yeah. I think the first song and the last song are probably my favorites. I don't really have songs that I don't like on the new one, or Temporary. Yeah, I don't think I really have songs that I dislike, but they're definitely favorites. Which is, hopefully you got those sneezes from my wife. But yeah, there's songs that perform really well in a live setting, that turn into favorites, even if they weren't when I was recording them. And there's ones that I thought I really liked, and then after playing them live, it's like, oh, this is just one part for 4 minutes. Maybe I don't like it that much, so. But yeah, I like the song Burn and Big Dig. Those are the two of my favorites from the last one.
So playing a song live will have at least some sort of sway as far as which songs you may like more?
Yeah, definitely. Because after it's more, I guess, just you hear it more, and then, maybe you see people's reactions to it at a show where, maybe you didn't like that song that much, but then you see people go crazy at a show, and you're like, maybe this song is cool. I didn't really think about it, So.
And when you are releasing music out into the world, what's going on with you at that point? Like, what's going through your head? What emotions are you experiencing prior to?
Usually I just can't hold it. I can't keep it to myself anymore. I'm really excited about the recordings. In the past, I've been trying to find some help with labels and stuff just to get more attention to it. Maybe even get a pressing, on vinyl or tape or something. But for now, I kind of just like answering to myself. I don't want someone else to tell me when to release it or what single to pick or, if I should premiere it or do a video or something. It's, it always has been just, my thing. I just want to do it when I want to do it and how I want to do it. So at this point, when I feel like the songs are ready and I can't hold it in anymore, I just release it, which I'm at a point where obviously it's not my living or anything. I don't really have anybody telling me what to do with it. So it's really fun to just release it and just, get it out there, see a reaction and stuff.
Yeah. And any albums that you've been listening to lately?
Yeah, there's a new Soccer Mommy album.
Yeah.
I've been listening to that. They're playing around here next week. Been pretty obsessed with that. He put me on the spot. I can't really remember.
I do like that Soccer Mommy album.
Yeah,
It's pretty
really
good. Yeah,
Super
yeah.
Catchy. I can't believe how catchy those vocal melodies and those guitar parts,
right?
How they go together. And they're so young. Like I don't even know if they're 20. It's just crazy.
Yeah.
The Casey Musgraves album, you heard that one?
Oh God, I'm trying to think the album art. Is it like black with some red, and then there's the one song? I believe I have heard it. I'm totally drawing a blank.
Country album,
Yeah.
It's, I never listened to her band before or anything, but wow, it's like Katy Perry. That amount of pop into one album. It's like every song is just so crazy. It's great for the summer,
Yeah.
It's just pure pop, and it I guess it's probably like a Taylor Swift thing where it's like she was doing country and now it's just so sugary pop.
Mm-hmm.
It's really great.
Nice. So what's next for Lost Film?
What's next? I think for a little bit I might do singles, just because at this point I don't have, it's summer. I'm going to be pretty busy. But I do have ideas for songs. I have them pretty much recorded. I think this summer I might release a song or two. Might be a little bit different. I'm not really playing guitar as much. I have a couple of synths and keyboards and drum machines. Just, if it's not a record, you can do a little bit of different things with it. And if it's too weird for people, you just brush it aside. It's not a record. It's just a single. Just get buried in the bin. So yeah, probably singles. And then I think we're going to do a little tour at the end of the summer for a couple days, and then maybe I can put these pieces together on my voice memos on my phone to write another record.
Nice. So where can people check out your music and what you're doing?
Sure, pretty much everywhere on the internet, I think. Bandcamp, everywhere. Record stores, maybe. Not so much probably record stores. Maybe there's like a couple that have it. But just on the internet. Instagram.
Sweet. All right. Well, thank you so much, man.
Thanks,
I really
guys.
appreciate your time. Yeah, this is great. And there you have it, you jabronis. That is my conversation with Jim Hewitt. As I mentioned, it was a fun one. It was really cool sitting down with him. I thought it was funny that he mentioned that the first song that he learned how to play was Smoke on the Water. That was not the first song that I learned how to play on guitar. The first song that I learned how to play on guitar, even though I've never been big on trying to learn how to play songs, was Sunshine of Your Love by Cream. Not because I typically enjoyed that song specifically, but I wanted to learn it because Earth Crisis covered them on an album that they put out years ago. I think it was a live album maybe. And if you've never heard Earth Crisis or that song, man, I don't know if I want to say you're in for a treat by listening to them. I haven't listened to them in years, but I loved them when I was in they were like one of the first hardcore bands that I listened to when I was in like 8th, 9th grade, because I first discovered Hatebreed. And at this point, the internet was kind of a thing, but it wasn't like a big thing for finding music. And I discovered bands by reading the booklets of CDs and found Hatebreed's album from a friend and basically stole it from them, and then looked at the booklet, saw Earth Crisis, cop one of their CDs, and thought they were awesome. But anyway, kind of a weird thing to get into. Anyway, yes, I thought it was kind of funny that Jim mentioned that was the first song that he learned how to play. So as I mentioned, I've got some Lost Film merch to give away, so slide into my DMs on Instagram. Again, it's at Create and Destroy Podcast. If you want to pick up a Lost Film tape or a 7-inch, make sure to check out Lost Film on social media. I will add links in the show notes to how you can follow Lost Film on Instagram and any other social media that they're on. I'll also add links to how you can listen to Lost Film. Definitely check them out on Spotify. I know they're on Spotify because I listen to their albums all the time on there. Follow Create and Destroy on Instagram, Facebook, and Tumblr, all at Create and Destroy Podcast. And then Twitter at Create Destroy _. Twitter is kind of whack, and I especially don't like that I couldn't make it the same name as all my other social media, but I'm going to try to keep that damn thing afloat and keep it going. We'll see how long that lasts. But all right, everyone. Hope you enjoyed today's episode. Get out there, create something cool. I'll see you next time.